Well, welcome one and all to the Namaqua Unitarian Universalist Congregation. My name is Laurel Liefert, and I serve as the minister of this feisty, generous, justice-loving, resilient community of seekers. I use the pronouns she, her, and hers, and I am so glad that you all are with us today. You may have noticed that we have slid back a little bit. We were so happy in December to be able to start meeting in person again. But last week, the board had a special meeting, and because of the surge in the Omicron variant, the infection rate is too high right now for us to meet in person. However, you will notice that I am not on Zoom. I and the other participants in this service and those going forward will be able to be in the sanctuary, and then the rest of you will join us by Zoom. So I don't know whether we have any visitors, but if we do, would you please type your information if you'd like to have somebody contact you into the chat room, and we will reach out to you and answer any questions that you have. And in the meantime, everyone just stay safe, stay healthy, and we will begin our service with a prelude by our music director, Ryan Marvel.
We like this challenge in the spirit of kindness and connection. Here we create friendships across the generations. Here we share smiles and hugs, we share stories and songs, we laugh and cry together. Here it is safe to stretch and grow through our mistakes and triumphs. This flame reminds us how lucky we are to grow together in this community. And this flame reminds us to do our best. To use our gifts to bless the world in the spirit of love.
And now if you'll please join me in our congregational affirmation. We recite this in unison every Sunday. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law, or its call. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Well, since we are now meeting on Zoom again, enjoy our opening hymn, We Are by Issei Barnwell, And it will be on Zoom, but I promise that as soon as we can meet together in person again, we will have a choir and we will sing lustily together in our sanctuary.
You can't see it.
For each child that's born, a morning star
can't get the
rises
sound
and sings
with the big
to
screen
the
on. I could, yeah.
universe
Nothing
who
seems to
we
want to work.
are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings
I know
to the
that.
universe
I mean, I can try.
for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace, and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the spirit of God. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are one.
Oh, today is such a special service.
Our grandmother's prayers, and we are.
It's called the Decades Service, also known as Wild and Precious Lives. So this is a tradition that I inherited when I came here 11 years ago. On one of the first Sundays in January, we begin the new year by having a multi-generational presentation of people who answer the question in Mary Oliver's poem, The Summer Day. Tell me what it is you plan to do with your one wild and precious life. So on this second Sunday in January of 2022, we are rich in speakers. This morning we have 10 members from our congregation ranging from age 4.5 really, to 80. And that represents a span of 8 decades or 4 generations. So the service today is one way that we can create meaningful connections among the generations of our community. And I think that is one of the most precious things about being part of a community like this, is the fact that it is multi-generational. So as we listen with respect and gratitude to the sharing of our 10 brave speakers, I offer you this image by Wendell Berry of circles within circles joined in a dance of life. We clasp the hands of those that go before us and the hands of those who come after us. We enter the little circle of each other's arms and the larger circle of lovers whose hands are joined in a dance, and the larger circle of all creatures passing in and out of life, who move also in a dance to a music so subtle and vast that no one hears it except in fragments. So speakers, thank you so much. Those of you who are in the sanctuary with me and those of you who are at home on Zoom, thank you for being part of this service. And also thank you to your friends and your family who support you. And thank you to all of you who are here this morning for this special service as we bear witness with love. So please know how each and every one of you is essential to creating this beloved community. And so picture us gathered once again under our imaginary story tree as we share the stories of our lives. And so we are cozy and safe and warm. And so now, Aiden Christensen, why don't you tell us how old you are now? And then if you'd please read the poem, The Summer Day by Mary Oliver.
Aiden, you're on mute.
Can you chat with him?
Aiden, maybe try just going through your computer audio. Select mic, select the mute button, and make sure it says same as system. On the Zoom, I'm sorry, the Zoom control.
Is that better? Oh, there we go. Okay, great. All right, I'm sorry about that. Zoom settings. Anyway, so as we were saying, I am 15 years old as of November 12th last year. And without any further ado, the poem. The Summer Day by Mary Oliver. Who made the world? Who made the swan and the black bear? Who made the grasshopper? This grasshopper, I mean, the one who has flung herself out of the grass, the one who is eating sugar out of my hand, who is moving her jaws back and forth instead of up and down, who is gazing around with her enormous and complicated eyes. Now she lifts her pale forearms and thoroughly washes her face. Now she snaps her wings open and floats away. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I have been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?
I don't exactly know what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel in the grass, how to be idle and blessed, how to stroll through the fields, which is what I've been doing all day. Tell me, what else should I have done? Doesn't everything die at last and too soon? Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? So our presenters today who will be answering that question from where they are at this point in their lives begin with Cora Pease, who is now 4.5, Mael Fox, who is 11, I mean. Danny Fox, her sister, who is now 18, Caitlin Alexander, who just turned 30, Claire Hamor, who just turned 32, Katie Fox, how old, 41? 39, almost 40, Janan Wright, 54, Norma Fox, I think is 68 or 67, and Marion Cox in her 70s, though she feels very young, and Mim Neal, our elder, who is now 80 years old. And so after each speaker, I would like you to join me in thanking them. And so the words that we will say after each speaker would be, "Dear Cora, it's a blessing you were born, and it matters what you do. Thank you for being you." So will you please say that with me? And we'll use Cora, our youngest. And so join with me. Dear Cora, it's a blessing you were born, and it matters what you do. Thank you for being you.
For being you.
And so now let's begin with a video. The sound is a little bit quiet, and so if those of you who know how to turn your audio all the way up on your computer so that you can hear what young Cora has to say.
Beautiful twirling, Cora.
We have a question for you.
Are you ready for your question?
What?
Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?
Watch the video.
Watch the video. What else?
Go to Fort Collins.
Go to Fort Collins
Oh, and go to Fort Fun.
and Fort Fun. What else do you want to be true for your life?
Getting my tooth out of my mouth.
You want to lose a tooth?
Yeah.
All right. Anything else to share?
Oh, yeah. I wish these flowers would grow more.
Yes, we love to see flowers grow.
What do you want to do while you're still in preschool?
Do a Christmas tree.
Christmas tree?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, not a Christmas tree. I'm doing an ornament.
And then when you get to Milo's age, what would you like to do with your life? Did you hear my question, Cora?
What is it?
When you get to be Milo's age, what would you like to do?
I really wish
animal and bigger snacks like Milo.
All right.
And then when you get to be mom and dad's age, what would you like to do with your life?
Oh, yes.
When you become an adult?
Do the gas.
Do the gas?
Yeah, for the car.
Oh, put gas in the car.
Oh, and remind people that to get off screens.
Okay. Yeah. And then when you get to be Grammy and Papa's age, what would you like to do?
Get to have mint and gum. And that's all about that.
That's all about that. Well, we are excited to see you grow and learn. Love you.
You do. Thank you for being you. Something very special is that I remember when her mom, Megan, was pregnant with Cora, and you heard the voices of her folks, Megan and Glenn, eliciting those adorable answers. And some people dance their reflections as well as speak them in words. And so next we have Mael Fox.
I don't really have like a roadmap for what I want to do with my life. I just kind of do like this. Or when I'm old enough to get a job, I probably start with like a food business or something just to kind of get the hang of work. And then gonna and so that's the So I am reading for my what do I want to do with my one wild? That is a good question. I don't have my heart set on it. I don't have a set direction for my time on this earth. I graduated in May, and I still have no idea what I should be doing or what I want to be doing. It feels like I'm on a ship in the middle of the ocean with no compass. So I'm taking my life day by day, and trying to better myself. I want to be the best version of myself that I can be. Sounds like a cheesy high school movie speech, I know, but that's what I've wanted since junior high. Nobody will ever be 100% ready for what life throws at them, but I'm going to do my best to handle each day as it comes.
That's okay. Can you all hear me now? Oh, great. Okay. All right. So my one wild and precious life by my daughter, Danny, AKA Nix. What do I want to do with my one wild and precious life? That is a good question. I don't have my heart set on anything right now. I don't have a set direction for my time on this earth. I graduated in May and I still have no idea what I should be doing or what I want to be doing. It feels like I'm on a ship in the middle of the ocean with no compass. So I'm taking life day by day and trying to better myself. I want to be the best version of myself that I can be. Sounds like a cheesy high school movie speech, I know, but that's what I've wanted since junior high. Nobody will ever be 100% ready for what life throws at them, but I am going to do my best to handle each day as it comes. It's a blessing you were born. It matters what you do. Thank you for being you.
So with my one wild life, I don't really have a roadmap for what I want to do, but I've had a few ideas that I've been thinking of for a while, just to kind of, get a basic idea of what I want to do. It's possible that it could change, but this is something I've had my heart set on for a good amount of time. I've had a few friends with this needing help, so I've been thinking of being a sign language interpreter for schools because I have had 2 friends who have used sign language, so they've needed their interpreters, and I know how hard that could be, so I'm slowly learning sign language. I would need to get a bachelor's degree for that, but I also would possibly on weekends when I'm not helping with kids at school, maybe own a doggy daycare or work at one at least. But then I know for a fact I want some wild pets like ferrets or axolotls or whatever my heart is set to. So I don't really have like my entire life planned out, but that's the basic idea of what I want to do. So.
Matters what you do. Thank you for being you. Next, in the midst of our young, wild, and precious lives, we have a reflection by Janan Wright, who is our Director of Religious Education. And when we planned this service, we were expecting that we would be in person and that Janan would go so that now she would be able to sing the children out and go to their religious education classes in the other building. So Janan.
So
did you take the mic?
this
there
is
you go.
okay, here we go. So recently, before winter caught up with us, I was taking a walk and in front of a neighbor's house, there was a child swing hanging from a tree limb and then across from it, a rocking chair. And it just struck me as like the best image of this life. At 54, I'm just past middle age as long as I live to be 100. And actually that is one of the things I want to do with my one wild and precious life. I'd love to grow to be old so that I could see the circle of life going around again. When my son lived in Virginia, he took us on a tour of Washington, D.C., and we went to the Smithsonian. And there we saw the paintings by Thomas Cole. Each one's a whole wall. It was very impressive, very moving. And I've got the first one here to show you. If you can see that, it has a child in a boat coming out of a dark cave, which I assume is the womb, into the light with an angel in attendance. And then the second one is, I'm sure some of you have seen him before, but the second one is all lush and green and there's a castle in the sky, and the boy is eagerly headed towards it. The angel stands on the bank and waves, but the boy isn't looking at the angel. The next painting is called Manhood. It's a dark picture with raging storms and choppy seas, and the angel is nowhere to be found. The last painting is titled Old Age, and the waters are calm again, and the angel's back in the boat with the old man. I think this is how a lot of people experience this life. This year, my last child headed off to college, and my husband and I have been empty nesters for the first time. There's a calm in the house that we are still trying to get used to, and it's not altogether bad. I feel like for the most part, my husband and I are out of the storm, the tempest, but we have front row seats in watching our kids wrestle with adulthood, and both of us can appreciate the challenge that is. I'd love to have the power to rescue a couple of them, but I know, like all the rest of us, they'll have to make their way on their own. I know too that different seasons of life require a different focus. For kids, it's all about growth. The difference between a newborn and a 10-year-old is so vast. Same with a 10-year-old and a 20-year-old. It's light years difference. And then young adulthood is so much about striving, finding a partner, finding a career, finding your own beliefs, reeling against the way things are. It's good that the young have such energy and idealism and muscle to push this world forward. In young adulthood, the focus is do more, see more, be more, make more. It's a very big time in life, and I remember being there. But at my age now, I feel that in place of striving, the time has come to arrive. And I know that I'm the only person who can allow myself to arrive. It is a choice and one I want to make. Instead of going further, I want to go deeper. I want to be more present. I want to be in the moment. I know the work of love is attention, and I want to learn how to pay better attention to the people that I love and to the things I care about. I want to see every day that I get to wake up as a gift. The thing I want most to do with my one wild and precious life is to be here for it. May it be so.
That's what you do. Thank you for being you. And before we close our young, wild, and precious lives, I want to say thank you to Aiden. So Aiden, if you're still watching, which I hope you are, dear Aiden, it's a blessing you were born, and it matters what you do. Thank you for being you.
Today's time for all ages. Okay. It is on. Do we use the handheld? Okay, let's just do that. Today's Time for All Ages is this beautiful book called The Visitor by Auntie Dom. If you pick up a copy of this book yourself, you'll be able to see how beautiful the illustrations are. They're photographs of miniature sets that the author has created. On this first page, there's a picture of a woman sitting alone in a gray house. Elise was scared of everything. She was scared of spiders, scared of people. She was even scared of trees. She never went out day or night. And there she sits looking at a tepid cup of tea. Elise liked her house to be neat and tidy, so she cleaned it every morning. Sometimes she opened a window to let in fresh air, and then one day something unbelievable happened. And here you see Elise shrieking as out from the golden sunrise comes a blue paper airplane. A strange thing flew in through the window and landed at her feet. Elise looked at it. Oh, that'll have to go, she decided. She scooped it into the fire, and you see her with a broom and a bucket scooping up the paper airplane. But that night, in through the window came hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of airplanes. She was too scared to sleep, and you can see her wide awake on her bed. The next morning, she heard knocking. No one ever knocked at her door. Why would they? She certainly wouldn't answer it, but the knocking just wouldn't stop. And you see her with golden light coming in from the windows, leaning against the door. In the end, she opened the door. She stared, and there is a little boy with a red cap and red pants and a yellow shirt. "I'm here for my plane," said the boy. Can I visit your bathroom? It's urgent," he added. "What shall I do?" wondered Elise. Then she heard herself say, "The bathroom is upstairs on the left." The boy climbed the stairs and disappeared and seemed like forever. And then he came back. And as the boy is running up the stairs, you can see red joining the picture in all of his footsteps. There's some color emerging in the house. "Who's that?" he asked. Elise looked at the picture. He waited patiently. "It's me. When I was young," she said with a little smile. "I was invited to dance. I wore my prettiest dress." "Cool," said the boy, and he just looked around some more. "Have you read them all?" the boy said as he looked up at a giant bookcase full of books that are beginning to gain color. "I have," said Elise, "every single one." "Will you read one to me?" the boy asked. And there they are sitting on Elise's bed, and you can see color streaming in through the walls and the windows, and it's joining the portraits, and even Elise has color on her. It was a long time since Elise had read to anyone, and the boy wanted to hear every story in the book. Then he wanted to play, and you can see Elise down on her hands and knees, finally with a smile on her face, and the boy's little arm from underneath a cabinet. They seem to be playing hide and go seek in this rainbow sprued room. When he got hungry, Elise buttered him a slice of bread. "I think you should probably go home now," she said. And that sounded a little bit sad. "What's your name?" asked the boy. "I'm Elise," said Elise. "And you?" "Emile," said the boy. "Bye, Elise. It's fun to be at your house." He waved goodbye. "Bye for now, Emile," she said. And there they are with rosy cheeks and smiles in a room full of color and brightness. And when it grew dark that night, Elise knew exactly what she wanted to do. And you see her at her table with crumpled up attempts at an airplane as she's folding a new sheet of paper. And there she is, glowing and rosy with a beautiful paper airplane in her rainbow-filled home.
Caitlin Alexander.
Hi, everyone. I have to admit, when Laurel invited me to participate this year, I was pretty surprised. I didn't know what to say at first. I shared my biggest dreams with you all in early 2020, and I wasn't sure why she thought I needed new dreams just 2 years later. So much has changed, she kept emphasizing, but I wasn't sure I believed her. I felt like my life has been on pause the past 2 years. And I haven't reached the goals that I hoped and planned that I would by now, but I still want the same things. But I'm old enough by now that I can sense when life or Laurel is nudging me towards a moment of fruitful self-reflection, and so I meditated on it. So what has changed? Well, the world has changed faces, changed needs, changed hearts. My son has changed. You might be able to hear him banging blocks just beyond. And while I was still a mother 2 years ago, I'm not the same mother because he's changed me. And that's when it really clicked. Of course, it's the recurring lesson I've been learning since Ocean's arrival. When he was nearing 2 weeks post due date and my perfectly visioned birth plan teetered towards all of the things I didn't want to have happen, I realized I needed a new plan. And so I planned peace. And I planned presence. I planned joy. And I planned to be welcoming. And as I gave Ocean my new plan, I gave him and life itself space to make their own plans. And I just promised to stick to mine no matter what. And thinking all that is, 24 hours later, Ocean arrived safely, magically, and right on time. So today, as I'm, entering my 30s, I'm really learning to trust when the greatest change that I see in my life is happening within myself or next to me and my son. And while I will keep working enthusiastically and relentlessly towards all of my biggest dreams, I will remember the importance of these plans, the ones I can return to in each moment. I may have dreams, they're my North Star, but my heart is the compass that tells me where to put my feet. So I will plan peace, presence, joy, and welcoming. And I don't know if I have another minute. I know it's been kind of a long with our technical difficulties. I did have a song to go with this, but I can always maybe send it in the chat if that's the best thing to do. Don't want to take up too much of everyone's time. I'll send it in the chat.
Oh, dear Caitlin, it's a blessing you were born, and it matters what you do. Thank you for being you. Thank you for your son, Ocean. And now our ministerial intern, Claire Hamor.
Yesterday, I got to go work in a prison all day, which is what I love to do on Saturdays. And I've been working on a project for the past 8 months at the oldest prison in the West. It was a prison before Colorado was a state called Territorial Correctional Facility. And they invited me in the spring to create a piece of theater that commemorates the prison being alive for 150 years. And while that's really complicated, and there's a lot that went into this, yesterday we finally got to film the project after meeting at least once a week, multiple times a week for the past 8 months. Territorial Correctional Facility until 1967 was where all executions in the state of Colorado happened. 77 men were murdered on that site, and many, many more have died there. And we wanted to film our project in the death house, which is on the top of one of the units. And so yesterday morning, I brought 16 men, many of whom who are incarcerated for the remainder of their life, upstairs to see the death chamber and to see the cell where people, many men, spent their last nights. And we walked in, and before we walked through, I invited everyone to begin rubbing their hands together and to feel what it's like to be alive in that space, and then to go touch the space and to go be present with how sacred it is, how dark it is. And we spent 10 or 15 minutes just walking around and touching the space and holding the bars and holding the doors. And I had a moment with 3 other guys leaning with our full body weight against the glass from the viewing room, looking into where many men were executed. Guys went into the cell and sat down on that bunk and just broke down and started sobbing. Guys who thought that they wanted to be executed when they were giving their sentence broke down and started sobbing. And we got to just hold each other in that space. And that was really hard and it was really beautiful. And that's what I want to do with my one wild and precious life. I want to do hard and beautiful work of making sacred space with people. That afternoon, some of the guys played Bob Dylan's I Shall Be Released inside the cell where many men spent their last nights. And it felt like an exorcism in the room. And I want to do this work in community, but I also want to do it with myself. Last night, after everyone left, we turned off the lights and people went down the ramps. There are only ramps in this building because you would need to be able to roll people's bodies out of it. And people went down the ramps and I was left upstairs alone and I turned off the lights and I walked back into the cell, into the room where the cell is, and turned on the one tiny light in the ceiling up above. And I opened up the door. That's what I want to do with my one wild and precious life.
Dear Claire, it's a blessing you were born, and it matters what you do. Thank you for being you. My goodness. Well, we will take time to share our joys and sorrows. We just heard something that was like a joy and sorrow, joy and woe are woven fine, as William Blake wrote. Because of the format today, what I would like is to invite any of you who would like to share a personal joy or sorrow to type it into the chat, and then Claire will read it out loud. And now our new liturgy is that after each person shares, we will say, we hear you, we hold you, and we care for you. Also, if any of you who are physically present in the sanctuary want to share something, I invite you also if you want to come up and take a microphone. We have Bill here.
Lenny and I, my son's 39 today, and she's going there right now to celebrate the birthday.
And what's your son's name?
Jamie.
What is it?
Jamie.
Jamie. So happy birthday, Jamie, and happy birthday to his parents as well. So Bill and Jamie and Lenny, we hear you, we hold you, and we care for you.
Doug Stewart says, Cam is down with COVID, but starting to feel better. Fingers crossed, exclamation point.
All right, Cam and Doug, we hear you, we hold you, and we care for you.
Karen Brock says, tomorrow is the big day for knee replacement number 2. Send good vibes, Kathy Hartman.
Yes. So Kathy, we hear you, we hold you, and we care for you. Hope all goes well.
Francie Leifert says, I had a joyful and precious ferry trip across the San Francisco Bay with Henry, my grandson, yesterday. What a treat to be with him.
Well, Francie and Henry, we hear you, we hold you, we care for you. Sure.
Hi, my name is Ryan. I'm Katie's boyfriend. I wanted to share from Mael since she's a little nervous to get up here. Mael is very excited that she gets to take part in, who's it for? Is it Harrington's?
Oh,
she is doing Matilda in Harrington. She has a big role at the very beginning and she gets to do her own solo and she is very excited.
Wow, Mael. So with the Harrington Arts Alliance, that was one of our half-plate recipients. Well, Mael, also known as Matilda, thanks, Ryan. We hear you, we hold you, we care for you, and we hope to see you and hear you in that play. So keep us posted.
Sharon Noor shares, my mother-in-law is in hospice with Alzheimer's. My sister-in-law has stage 3 pancreatic cancer, but is doing well right now. My brother has COVID, but had a better day yesterday. Sorrow and hope.
Wow. Well, Sharon and all those family members you mentioned, we hear you, we hold you, and we care for you. And for any others of you who may feel too shy to put something out, we will say to you as well that we hear you and we hold you and we care for you. And one more time, representing the joys and sorrows in the greater world, because we know that there are multitudes. And we hear you, we hold you, and we care for you, because we are a community that cares. So Katie, will you help me sing? And actually, Mael, why don't you come on up too? You're a singer. I bet you know this song. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Sing with me. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Sing with me, sing with me, sing with me, oh my soul. Dance with me. Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Dance with me, dance with me, dance with me, oh my soul. Comfort me. Comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my soul. So Katie, you're next.
So about a decade ago, I participated in the decade service representing the 30s. At the time, I was a mom to 2 young kids, working part-time, married, and optimistic about what my future would be. I remember ending my reflection by saying, check back with me in 10 years. Well, that went fast. I am still a mom to 2 wonderful kids. I'm now employed full-time, divorced, and more aware about how esoteric the future may be. To say it's been a rough 10 years is an understatement. It just goes to show that we really have no idea what the future holds. My trials and tribulations have taught me to really appreciate the good times and the small joys, to hold my loved ones close and to believe in myself. Because even when I don't feel it, I am reminded by those who care about me, and my will remains strong. I've learned the value of family, community, and good friends is beyond measure. I've learned more about myself in the last 10 years than in the previous 30. All that being said, here on the cusp of 40, what do I want to do with my one wild and precious life? I do know I still want to find my creative niche. One positive that came out of the last few years was the cultivation of space to continue my artistic journey. I had the opportunity arise to establish my own line of jewelry, which is exciting and a bit daunting. It's still very much a work in progress and a constant balancing act as I learn new skills and navigate the unknown, but I know I'm on the right path. I do know I want to keep doing what I can to make the world a little better, a little kinder. I always believed I had a bigger purpose in life, some important role to play in the grand scheme of things. I think what I've learned in the last 10 years is there are no small contributions. What we do in service of others, the way we raise our children, and the communities we build together all make a bigger impact than a single grand gesture. Like actors on stage, no role is too small, and we are all part of the interconnected web of existence. I do know I want to keep doing the challenging but important work of understanding my true self. I am still coming out of the darkness my 30s threw at me, yet as the light of my next decade is dawning, I anticipate discerning more of who I am, accepting my strengths and faults, and actualizing the fulfilling life that I want. I look forward to checking in 10 years.
Dear Katie, it's a blessing you were born, and it matters what you do. Thank you for being you. We have a lot of foxes today. Norma?
It's an invasion of foxes.
Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?
Well, I've lived 68 and a half years. And this morning I want to talk about a realization I came to in the last year, or maybe 2, I guess. The pandemic has given me a real appreciation for gratitude, and it's slowed me down a bit, but it's also really messed with my sense of the passage of time. So I find myself in these lines from Mary Oliver's poem. I don't know exactly what a prayer is. I do know how to pay attention, how to fall down into the grass, how to kneel down in the grass, how to be idle and blessed. Tell me, what else should I have done? It seems at long last, I've decided to nurture my spirit. Laurel nudges all of us, pushes and prods us to set aside time and place for meditation, journaling, contemplation, spiritual practice every day. I finally heeded that call, and now I begin almost every day with a centering time, usually reading something that I find inspiring and writing whatever thoughts come to me for that day. My inspirational reading is certainly not guidepost. Actually, at first I spent a lot of time with Mary Oliver's poetry. And personally, I think that we should add Mary Oliver to the UU sources of wisdom. I've grazed from Tao to Buddhist teachers, to books about Unitarian Universalism, to indigenous people's teachings. And right now, beside my chair, you would find Braiding Sweetgrass, Earth's Wild Music, the latest issue of Lion's Roar, and of course, several volumes of Mary Oliver's poems and essays. I have found this community to be a place to explore different ideas, opening my mind to possibilities. For me, spirituality has become a quest, not for the truth, but for what gives meaning to me. And I find a little bit here and a little bit there, without needing to put a label on my beliefs. As I approach 70, I continue to learn and grow. Retirement so far has been the greatest gig of my life. From now forward, I hope to never stop growing and learning. And I'm so happy to be a part of this beloved community and have this community to help me along my way. And in closing, I would like to use a few other words from a different poem by Mary Oliver. There are things you can't reach, but you can reach out to them, and all day long. And that is one of the things I am doing with my wild and precious life.
Dear Norma, it's a blessing you were born, and it matters what you do. Thank you for being you.
I'd like to thank Sarah and Dawn, who are our tech gurus today. As you can imagine, with people on Zoom, people in the sanctuary presenting live music and music on Zoom, it's a little bit of a challenging service to coordinate, and they're doing a beautiful job. So thank you, Sarah and Dawn. So we're talking about grandmothers and grandfathers in the song We Are. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings. My paternal grandmother, Frances Smith, was and will always be my motivation and inspiration on piano. A wonderful pianist. She could play anything by sight reading it. So when I was 10, she came and visited us. And I, at that point, I could say, had a somewhat healthy obsession with Barry Manilow. I'm not too ashamed to mention that because he was rock star status to me. And my grandmother sat down and started playing some of that Barry Manilow from the songbook that I really couldn't read because I could only play by ear. And so I thought, my grandmother is also a rock star because she can play Barry Manilow. So she started to play a piece called Could It Be Magic by Barry. And for those of you who don't know it, it begins with a very familiar classical piece. And she said, oh, this is Chopin's Prelude in C minor. And I said, no, grandmother, clearly it's Barry Manilow. It says it on the songbook. And she very gently said, well, okay, we'll look at that book later. And of course she was right. He had borrowed it from Frédéric Chopin. And so in honor of our grandmother's prayers and our grandfather's dreamings, I thought I would share the very short prelude that I thought was by Barry Manilow, but is actually by Frédéric Chopin, Opus 28, number 20 in C minor. This is for Frances.
And our last two wild and precious lives, Marion Cox and Mim Neal. Marion?
I am 74 years old. Manufactured in the 40s, I've incurred a few dings and dents, but I still have all the original parts. If I live to be 99, as have many of my ancestors, I have a quarter of my life left to live. So how will I spend it? I intend to continue learning and growing, responding to a changing world, and attempting to make it better. Age has given me a perspective not seen in my youth. I have learned that trauma, failures, and heartache come and go, along with triumphs, joy, and fulfillment. It's all part of my precious life. My 3 sons and their families are a huge comfort to me and give me hope for the future. I cherish and need my close friends. We share adventures and support each other as needed. My church community is valuable to me. It is partially through you that I discern what is important. I am working on being less judgmental and more compassionate. I know that judgment divides, while compassion and love build understanding. I'm learning to take more time between an event and my response. This allows me to think about the consequences thereof. I believe that peace in the world begins with peace within myself, so I am working on staying calm during times of stress and chaos. I find inspiration in the natural world from silence and solitude, hiking through the forest, kayaking on the lake, enjoying the quiet beauty as I snowshoe through a white landscape, the sounds of ice moaning as it expands and contracts, the beauty of the stars in the night sky, or the white peaks towering in the distance, all fill me with incredible joy. I believe that if all people had their basic needs met, felt loved, and experienced the beauty of the natural world, many of society's problems would be solved. As a juror in the trial of a Black youth from Chicago's inner city who was accused of raping and killing a neighbor, I learned about the injustices of our legal system. Instead of imprisoning him, I wanted to show him a more beautiful world than the one he knew. Because of this experience, I got involved in the prison letter writing program through the UUA. I still email with my first pen pal who lives under a bridge. He can't find a job or housing because of his record. I trust the relationship with my newly assigned pen pal will be just as meaningful. I do not take my privileges for granted. I understand the impact of my actions, how I spend my time and money, how I vote, the written and spoken words I choose with which to express myself. Often I struggle with balance. On one hand, focusing my actions on people, animals, plants, or the earth itself. And on the other, taking care of myself through friends, music, books, gardening, and nature. I hope to be active for years, and when my body dictates slowing down, I will have wonderful memories to warm my soul. I will continue learning, growing, loving, being loved, and responding to this ever-changing, precious, and sacred world that right now seems so very fragile.
Dear Marion, it's a blessing you were born, and it matters what you do. Thank you for being you. And now our final speaker for today, Mim Neal, who just turned 80 this year. So Mim, tell us, what is it that you plan to do with your one wild and precious life?
It's true. I am 80 years and 4 months old. Like Mary Oliver, I believe that prayer is paying attention. Every morning when I go out to pick up my papers, I stop and consciously acknowledge the beauty in which I live. The dew or frost on leaves and branches, how new fallen snow reminds us of the sculptural beauty of leafless trees, birdsong, the tilt of a mom holding the hand of her toddler. So many of the teachers I have learned from cite the importance of gratitude. Gratitude not just for present amazements, but also for all the people and critters who have been here before me, who have enabled this beauty to permeate my existence. You may have noticed that I have mobility issues. Please don't ask me to be careful. I have to be careful. For a time, I allowed these issues, combined with pandemic restrictions, to circumscribe my life. It felt like I was organizing my life around weekly trash pickups and Netflix. It was an inadequate existence. In the past, I had been on several Rhodes Scholar trips. I received all their catalogs. One of them contained text describing an alternative and encouraging ways to participate. You could hike off vigorously with the stalwarts or stay behind and stroll leisurely with the other less stalwarts. So Wednesday morning, January 5th, 2022, I called them. I explained my physical limitations and the places I wanted to go. It was a long and reassuring phone call. I looked at one of their brochures and asked about a trip around the eastern side of the Mediterranean. And I signed up. For Odyssey at Sea, visiting ancient sites in Greece, Lebanon, Israel, and Egypt. I will join the tour December 1st, 2022, and return December 17th. Of course, I don't know what my physical condition will be then, what the state of the world will be, more pandemics, more wars. But I bought trip insurance, so I will either go or stay home, if indeed I'm still alive. Until then, I have a luminous opportunity on my personal horizon. I intend for it to motivate me to get out more, to do more. I need to find a travel buddy to go with me to places like Steamboat Springs and Breckenridge. In July, I plan to attend the Indiana wedding of my friend's daughter, and I will arrange as many encounters with my grandson and sons and daughter-in-law as possible. I'd like to go back to Taos and Santa Fe, get an entry permit for Rocky Mountain National Park, and visit other Colorado wonders, and go to concerts and plays, and show up for this congregation, which has been such a magnificent resource for my mind and soul. I believe that I'm not only connected to everything and everyone that exists now, but also to everything and everyone that existed before. And maybe, but I haven't figured out how, to everything that ever will exist. These connections comprise my obligations. I am obliged to honor all the components of this vast and infinitely complex universe, to protect individuals and elements that are in jeopardy, and to celebrate the ineffable beauty that permeates existence.
Dear Mim, it's a blessing you were born, and it matters what you do. Thank you for being you. Well, in the interest of time, today let's go ahead and skip our offertory. We're starting a new quarter. The Loveland Community Kitchen will be our half-plate recipient. And so what I ask is that you give twice as much next Sunday when we hold our offering. And so our closing hymn is one that is close to my heart. We are dancing Sarah's circle. And keep in mind when we sing those binary words of brothers and sisters that we now know more than when the song was composed, that gender is much more fluid than that. And so please, keeping your microphones mute, but let's enjoy our closing hymn, We Are Dancing Sarah's Circle. And Mim will read the words to extinguish the chalice.
Our time together is finished, but our work is not done. May our spirits be renewed and our resolve strengthened as we meet the challenges of the week to come. This chalice flame is extinguished until we ignite it again with the spark of our communion.
And our benediction, it's a blessing that each of us was born, and it matters what we do with our lives. What each of us knows about God is a piece of the truth. Let the beauty we love be what we do, and know that we don't have to do it alone. And now, Claire.
To end our service, I'm going to invite you to follow Laurel, because I won't be able to do it with a mic in my hand, to start by rubbing your hands together, getting them really warm, knowing what it's like for them to be alive. And inside of that aliveness, I invite you to think of your own hope for your wild and precious life that is to come. And I'm going to say 3, 2, 1. And when I do, we're going to give a clap and throw our hands up into the sky, sending that hope out into the universe together. 3, 2, 1. May it be so.
May it be so. Go now in peace, and thank you all so much, especially you wonderful speakers. See you next week.